Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Sunday chat this week at the end. I'm not going to do a spotlight on a genus. I'm going to have just a general run around the subject of watering and feeding as we're in the height of the growing season at the moment, and how that's going to change as time moves through the season. But first of all, the big thanks for everybody who supports the channel in whatever way you do. Reminders, you've got membership for YouTube memberships, which is a way of financially supporting the channel. Also the Patreon site where you can become a patron, again a type of financial support. Without any financial support you can watch my videos, subscribe to the channel and do the thumbs up. All the links to these various ideas and extravagances are in the description of every video, including, which I always forget to say, the link to my Facebook group, Orchid Facebook group, which was set up originally because people in the comments on YouTube kept saying they wanted to show me things which you can't do on YouTube unless you make a video and have your own channel. But you can on Facebook, you can post photos. So that's what that was set up for, was for people who don't do YouTube but can still have a place and join in, sort of thing. So again, the link to the Facebook group is there as well. It is a private group effectively, you have to join. All that really is involved is that you put in a request to become a member or join the Facebook group. There's a question there that must be answered. I get quite a lot of people that would probably make quite good contributors to the group and everything, but they don't answer the question. It's mandatory. And the way to get you in without any questions asked is to say that you've come over from my YouTube channel. Yeah, you're in. Anyway, the membership on that has grown substantially over time and it's now quite a large membership. People post photos of their orchids, visits to orchid nurseries, have chats about problems, bugs, plants that just don't seem to want to bloom or don't seem to want to grow. So that's the place to join in with conversations, post some photos and do that sort of thing. I don't get involved that much apart from authorising people's posts. So when you post on there, you go on hold until I get round to actually authorising the post, which is normally first thing in the morning UK time. So yeah, if you post just after that time and you've missed the slot, then you've got to wait nearly 24 hours, although I do look again a second time, most days, if I'm in. Talking of being in, things coming up. Next weekend is the Burley show. Now Burley is a village on the edge of the New Forest, quite a famous village actually. It's got a witch shop, a witch's shop. Yeah, you can't buy a witch, but you can buy a broomstick and a cauldron and a hat. It's a daft touristy shop really, but it's actually got a witch's shop. It's one of the few villages in the forest that most of it is open to the forest ponies, so you can turn a bend in your car and come up against 4 horses walking up the road straight towards you. Oh, what fun. Anyway, it's a country show, stalls and things, there'll be some demonstrations and stuff. I've never been, I haven't got a clue what it's like, but it's 6 miles up the road. It'd take me 15-20 minutes to get there, probably half an hour to park. I would imagine the parking is organised. I may go to that, totally weather dependent and mood. I would need to be in the mood to that. On the Sunday next weekend is the bonsai field event. It's an open air event where private sellers, private people bring along their surplus bonsai trees, their pots, sundries, all stuff like that. There's traders there as well, the commercial traders, and it's just a day out with some nice food stalls, all bonsai related. I would meet up with many people I know, again weather dependent and not too far away. That's next weekend. The weekend after that is the Wessex Orchid Society's garden party, which is a members only event apart from Hannah. I don't know whether her honorary membership to get us organised to actually do that NEC show in Birmingham. She was made an honorary member so that we didn't break any rules, actually getting her in for nothing and all stuff like that. If that membership still goes, well, she's coming to the garden party one way or the other. So that's the following weekend. But that's a Saturday, so it you know, doesn't affect Sunday chat or anything. The next thing that will affect the Sunday chat is quite a long way off. So we don't need to worry about missing Sunday chats. I think the next thing is the Heathrow Bonsai show. That's out in September sometimes, that's quite a long way. In fact, I think it's October, come to think of it. The Deesers that I got at Burnham's have caused a bit of a stir, a fair bit of interest. Lots of people saying I'd love to have them, but I won't. They are a little different. The care of those does need a bit of work, a bit of attention. You can't just stick them in a pot and leave them for 4 years. But the video that I posted, the interaction with the guy that actually sold them to Burnham's in the first place, I will be contacting him. He said leave it till next week, which will be this coming week, to contact him again to see if he's got any more for sale this year. He will definitely have some next year, because I would like some more. And also he's got, he travels to Surrey relatively frequently, so we could, if he was going to sell some to me, we could find a place to meet. But more important than that, he usually goes to the Bournemouth Orchid Society show. Well, so do I. It's the one that's just up the road, literally, you know, less than 10 miles away. Takes me half an hour to get there because of the roads and the traffic. So, you know, and I would go to that show. So we have a place to meet that's mutually agreed should there be any more surplus plants, which there may not be, you know, so... But it was nice of him to answer all my questions. Yeah, literally. The only thing he didn't answer was what type of feed he used. He told me that he only feeds a couple of times a year at a very low sort of parts per million, but he didn't say what he actually uses. He probably just uses a normal balanced feed, whatever that is. Different things for different people. You could even say different things for different orchids if you wanted to be fussy. Yes, so that's that. Things that are still going to be going on here that I can make videos out of. I've still got some repots to do, including the big black hair type dendrobium has finished blooming now after I think 4 months. But it did have a succession. The individual blooms didn't last that long, it had another flush. But that's got its new growth starting, and that's never come out of its pot, it's never been repotted, so that needs doing, that's a biggie. There are a few other things that could do with a repot, but the big repot really is the 8 mini Phalaenopsis that I bought from Double H Nurseries. Love Orchids is their online presence. They all need repotting except for one, which I've already done, and that sort of laid the ground. I needed to get one out and have a look what was involved to see whether I'd be doing damage by not repotting them. So I will be leaving them. I will probably do them all at once. You know, there's 7 to go. I don't think there's any of my other Phalaenopsis that need repotting. Actually, yes, there is. There's one down there that's not in the black pot and has algae. I assume that hasn't been repotted because I know where I got it, I know when I got it, and it wouldn't have grown algae that quick. Not in my type of bark anyway, so that needs doing as well. Yes, but I will get those done. That's medium bark basically. Nothing else. I just put Phalaenopsis in medium bark. The mini phals, I will check the roots, because some mini phals have got smaller, finer roots. They might need a bit of small bark in there, just to sort of fill in the gaps, if you see what I mean. But some of them have big, thick, chunky roots, like they're, you know, bigger brothers and sisters. They can just go in the normal medium bark. All the ones that I've planted so far in medium bark have done very well in it and pushed out, you know, good root systems and everything, so I'm happy to just continue with that. Right, have I got any plants to show you? I don't think so. My Laelia anceps, the new growth, has decided to push up a spike, but it's right at the back in the far corner. I can't get at that without moving loads of plants, but it'll get filmed next time we come round to everything in spike, bud or bloom, which is not too far away now. That's on the 8th, what's that, 11 days away, something like that, not too long to wait. My little, let me put my coffee down and show you a few things. It's been Orchid Channel and all you're doing is looking at me. I am not an orchid. Nowhere near pretty enough. The little Dendrobium Jenkinsii that I got from Lynn has pushed out new growths. Here, there was one here somewhere, one down here. But what's more important, you might just be able to see, it started to grow new roots. So we've got new white roots coming out in amongst these older tired ones. So it's growing, that's the main thing. I lost mine, so this is a replacement. It's not a piece of mine. The other thing, I suppose, is my Anosmum kikis. We don't ever show these. These were all kikis off of the mother plant. The mother plant I've lost. But the kikis are growing quite nicely. And again, it's the roots that are important. Looking for these white roots. This is this year's growth on the kikis. 3 inches long. And it's nearly the end of July. There's no way those are ever going to reach full size. Anosmum canes can be 1 metre long. They should at least be a couple of, 2/3 of a metre would be a reasonable thing. They'll be lucky if they'll get to 1/3 of a metre. Just don't start early enough in the year, and this now is something that I'm going to have to live with. So dendrobiums that need long canes to have a good flowering are there's not much point in getting them anymore because they don't come into growth early enough. And I'm not prepared to put in the heavy expense of actually raising the temperature in, end of March, April time, and actually pushing up, the wattage of the old lights to actually get them to believe that it's spring when it's not. That's not going to happen. It's far too expensive to do all that. So I'll just have to put up with it and buy other types of orchids. I've always said, find out about your environment, work out what you can grow and grow those things. That way your plants and you will be happy. If you keep buying plants that don't do very well and you struggle with them, you'll get despondent. You'll think, oh, I can't do anything right, orchids are not for me. And that's probably not true. It's just that you've either not got a very good environment that perhaps you could change, or you're buying the wrong sort of orchids for that environment. And they go together. So get to know your environment and then buy accordingly. Yes, my infundibulum has got buds on. How those snuck up on me, I really don't know, because one of them's starting to open. That was unusual. Snuck up on me. I'm a little worried about Dendrobium Victoria Regina. Even though it's got blooms on it at the moment, it has one cane that is actively growing, but so far this year I have no new growths. So it's another one, it's just not pushing out the new canes. I've got this problem with quite a few dendrobiums. The two that logically in my collection would be more difficult to grow are the 2 black hair types. They're both growing away smashing. And yet, apart from those 2, all the other black hair types I had before, I've lost a lot. They've all gone. And the sad bit of news, my awarded plant, my Friedrichianum Hanna, is lost. I had a kiki, it was growing, it pushed up a new growth from the base, and about a week ago it dropped all its leaves and the new growth died. So I think I've lost it completely now. Obviously irreplaceable because it was awarded. Quite disappointed about that when, you know, of all the things I could have lost, that one just didn't take to the move and the strange winters and everything. Right, light levels. It's quite important. There was a bonsai video that highlighted this. Plants respond to day length. Some are far more sensitive to day lengths than others, and can change their habits relatively quickly given a change in day lengths. Now, the Midsummer's Day was back in June, so it was over 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, possibly heading up towards 6 weeks ago, but a while ago. And the day length, we've already lost an hour, yeah, so it's half an hour each end obviously. And you know, people will say, oh, the nights are drawing in. Yeah, they do it every year. It's called the end of summer. And it seems strange to be talking about the end of summer and we're still in July, but summer is starting to end. It's a long process, it's not an overnight thing, but the days are getting shorter, our day lengths are getting shorter, therefore the overall amount of light that an orchid can get is getting less each day, by a little bit, just a itty bit. But that rate of change dramatically increases once we get out into August. Towards the end of August it rockets, and we will see the days getting noticeably shorter as we head through August, and it's nearly August now, yeah. So things will respond. Those more sensitive to light during August will start to slow down, yeah. But in the UK, although our day length is getting less, it's still not dropped into what these tropical orchids would get in their natural environment. Now obviously that's species and perhaps some primary crosses, but that's all. The others are hybrids. They may have some of the fussiness bred out of them, it's possible. But you will get plants starting to slow. Now logically, as you come out at the end of August, you go into September, October time, you are heading towards autumn then, and the days really are starting to get shorter. Most orchids would be coming to the end of their growth and be maturing those current year growths, those that just grow in the growing season. So we've got all that to look forward to. It might sound a bit depressing, but it's not. It's the natural thing. It happens every year. But the thing that's important is to know what that change means to your orchid maintenance, your practices, what you get up to. Just with the orchids, we're not interested in anything else that you get up to. Right, so that leads me on to watering and feeding. It is still the growing season. It's the season where logically we get the best temperatures. We also get the longest days. We also get the best growth from our orchids a lot of the time. Some orchids might not be growing at the moment. You know, you got to. It comes down to plant level, but most of the ones I've got that are actually growing are growing now. There are some that aren't growing at all that should be. That's a whole different kettle of fish. That's the rescue things and the things that don't want to play in my playground. There are still a few of those around. So yes, you should be, all your growing orchids with your longest days and your best temperatures, this is the time when your watering frequency is at its most frequent. That's irrespective of your media. Don't forget I've said you can adjust your media to suit your watering practices. So like I've said, if you can only water once a week and your plant, you know, and you water on a Sunday, if your plants are drying out by Wednesday, you need to do something because they shouldn't stay dry that long. an odd day or two here and there for some orchids isn't a big deal, but not for half a week. So you adjust your media. If it's bark, we'll go for smaller grade bark. Add some moss, add some perlite, yeah? Do something so that your plant stays moist longer to suit you, yeah? So you're contriving your media to suit your ways. Now, I've got sets of orchids that I water in. My biggest set is what I just call my potted orchids. The ones that aren't in that set are the cooler, shadier ones, which are the Odonts behind me, and the Masdevallias and Restrepias. Those are my cooler, shadier set. They're on a different frequency altogether, as are the Cymbidiums outside. Yeah, so those are the different frequencies. My mounts this time of year are mainly dailies, but if we get a dull day where the temperature hasn't come up much, which we are getting some of those, I might miss a day. But that little Jenkinsia I showed you, that's every day. That's bare rooted. That needs to be every day. The others have got moss. They can go 2 days unless it's really warm out here, in which case it's every day. That's the most frequent, and if you can't do that, don't have mounted orchids. Simple as that. They are higher maintenance, for obvious reasons. But my normal pots at the moment come round about every 5 or 6 days. You might think that's not very often. Ooh, I'm having to water a lot more often than that. Well, I'm not, because of the media. Yeah. Also, with the media and frequency, is the size of the pot. You put an itty bitty plant in a bucket and water it, it'll probably stay wet for a month, won't it? It's not going to use it up. The only moisture loss in that environment would be through evaporation, which starts at the top and works down. And where are the roots? In the top. So you've got to think these things through, really. Right, so watering frequency adjust as the season fades. It'll be a subtle change. You might not even notice it for a while, but you may find that you're going around doing your watering in your normal routine, and you pick a couple of pots up in that routine and they're still wet. Well, normally that one's dry. Well, you need to spread them out a bit, not water them quite as often. Maintain those that need to stay moist, yeah? Don't let them get totally dry. You can let them get almost dry, but not totally dry. And those that need a wet-dry cycle should be in a media that suits that. And the faster that wet-dry cycle, the better for those type of plants, things like Cattleyas, yeah? Absolutely soak them, 3 or 4 days dry. Absolutely soak them and repeat, yeah? If they dry a bit quicker, water them a day earlier. Yeah? You're going to get warmer weather and cooler weather. These all need making adjustments for. We've got a warm day coming up now. There's hardly a cloud in the sky out there. Although Trouble's woken up. He's been asleep in the sun for quite a while. Come on then. Yes, so watch your frequency with the seasonal change that we're going to have from now for the next 3 or 4 months. Where are we, Joe? Let's say August, September, October. Yeah, once you get to November, you can safely say we're in winter. You've got the short days, November, December, January, February. In the UK, we get 4 months of that nonsense. Short days, cooler temps, low light levels as a consequence. If your daylight hours are only 8 or 9 hours, the amount of daylight a plant can have, even if you put it outside, is not enough. Yeah? Where these tropical orchids come from, the day lengths are 11 to 13 hours. That's about the only change. So they have relatively consistent day lengths compared with ours, which change from about 7.5 right up to 16.5. ish. I think it's a bit less than that, but yeah. So what's your watering frequency? You might need to adjust how you water depending on what your media looks like. If, like, let's say I've got something that's in moss, just sphagnum moss, that's all it is. And this time of year when I water it, I'd pour water through it all over the pot like that, running out the bottom, absolutely soaking wet. Yeah? As the days get shorter, that might be too much water and it might make the media over wet. Now, if it's relatively new moss, it probably won't be soggy, but if the moss is getting a bit old, yeah, you're coming up to, like, you're thinking, oh, I'll need to repot that in the spring. If you need to repot it in the spring, then towards the end of this year, that moss is getting old and tired and will start to compact. When it does that, it will hold lots more water than it did once when it was fresh and all light and fluffy. Yeah, so you might need to adjust the way you water. My soggy pots, the pots that potentially could get soggy as we head to the real short days and everything, lower temps, the whole lot, the works, they just get a bit around the edge of the pot. I don't want the middle of the pot wet. Chances are, firstly, there won't be many roots in the middle of the pot because they tend to head to the edge. That you may have noticed. That tends to be what happens with your orchids. The roots get going, most of them around the edge of the pot. Well, when they're not using much water because they've stopped growing because it's winter time, where do you want the water? Just where the roots are, nowhere else. You'll end up with a soggy mass in the middle, which with moss will wick to the whole pot and all of the pot will stay wet far too long. So go steady how you water. You might change from dunking something in a bucket perhaps for 20 minutes, really soak your bark and everything. Great. That might not be the best idea in the middle of winter because the growth will have gone down to next to nothing or even nothing at all. And if there is no growth, why do you want to soak something in a bucket? What's it going to do with that water? It's not growing. All you need is the minimum to keep a plant hydrated if they've gone into that semi-dormant or almost dormant state. So watch what you're up to with your frequency and your amounts. Then we come on to feed. Now you could get deep and meaningful with the old feed. I went down that road. I went from very simple and really keeping it simple to getting more complicated, using additives, thinking far more about amounts, what was in that food, and I've come out the other end and gone back to what I call semi-simple. I still use additives. I use them for what they were designed for, not for trickery or mucking about. This year I am using the seaweed extract for the first time on a relatively regular basis. I won't say at every watering because it isn't. Perhaps 1 in 3, and given that my frequency is probably at its, the gaps are the shortest they're going to be this time of year, that's relatively frequent, but they don't get much. Yeah, it's a sploop. That's obviously a metric sploop, not an imperial sploop. All that old-fashioned nonsense. So a nice metric sploop. What else do I use? I use my MSU fertilizer. That is my base fertilizer. That is a nice balanced feed with everything in it. Yeah? So why do you need additives then? Well, it might be a nice balanced feed, but the nitrogen value, your NPK, and then your calcium and magnesium, which are also often on the packet of feed nowadays because they're not micro, they're in between your macro, your top 3, and your micro, and they need to be substantial. They need to be there, not mucking about, not 0 point something or other. They need a proper percentage. But on my standard feed, the N value is not the lowest of the NPK. It is one of the lower ones. In the growing season it should be the highest, and it should have a fair jump above the other two. The middle one, NP, the P needs to be lower, K a bit higher. This is an average. Some people disagree with the P and the K. Some people think that orchids don't use much P at all. That may be true. I can't prove it one way or the other. I still think a balance with everything in proportion is okay. Those proportions are debatable. But my MSU feed doesn't provide high nitrogen. So the first additive I use is calcium nitrate, and that's a mix of calcium and nitrogen, and it's mostly nitrate nitrogen, which is the sort of nitrogen that the plants can readily use. It doesn't have to be mucked about with microbes and all that sort of chemical changes that happen in soil and stuff, you know. But yeah, it's a nitrogen boost, and I use it in a proportion that is total guesswork, because I can't find any facts and figures that I could safely use. So if, for example, I had my MSU at 200 parts per million and I want to add calcium nitrate, I'll take it up to about 250 parts per million. And that extra 50 parts per million is a mix of nitrogen and calcium to back up the nitrogen. High nitrogen without the backup will produce leggy, floppy growth. Like your seedlings on the windowsill, they sort of lean towards the window and then they go long and floppy, because you might think they're in bright light, but it's not the same as being in a greenhouse or outside. Yeah, so the calcium goes with the nitrogen to back it up and give the plant strength for that new growth which you're artificially boosting. It's unlikely that in the wild orchids would suddenly get a nitrogen boost because it's the growing season. Nature's not really like that. They get what they're given, and it comes and goes at various strengths and various mixes. But most of our orchids are epiphytes. They do grow on trees, and it's relatively safe now. I've found a few articles that back this up. Nothing to do with orchids, it's to do with trees. That trees really are calcium hogs, and they slough it off through the bark. So there's calcium available to these orchids, it's there. So it's there for them to use should they choose to do so, and I would say that they probably do, because it gives them strength, it gives the cells strength. And calcium's a pain because it's one of the immobile nutrients, so it goes into the plant and wherever it lands it stays, and the plant can't choose to move it like it can with some of the other stuff. There's some of the other elements, if there's a bit of the plant that's a bit short, it'll steal some from somewhere else. What? You've only just come in, but you've been in the sunshine, and that could have got you a bit warm, and now you've come in and had a drink, and now you want to go out. That's reasonable. You might be doing the same in a minute. Right, so I use additives. The other additive I use, apart from the kelp, is CalMag, and that boosts calcium and magnesium. And the reason I use that is not for the calcium boost, it's for the magnesium boost. Because magnesium is basically Epsom salts, that's the chemical or the substance you would use to boost magnesium. But I'm not happy about boosting magnesium without taking calcium with it, because there is a direct relationship between that, and it's something like 1 to 3 or 4. So if say your calcium was 10%, the magnesium needs to be around 3, possibly 4, possibly only 2. Yeah? So it's that sort of relationship. So if you suddenly whack up your magnesium, I would suggest that is quite an unnatural thing to do. But CalMag keeps the two in step. So it's my way of introducing a bit of extra magnesium, which helps with photosynthesis and that process that actually produces the natural foods within the plant that can be produced with no feed whatsoever. So that they've only got water inside them. The photosynthesis will produce some sugars and some energy for the plant. That's happening every time it's daylight, basically. Now, lots of people think photosynthesis needs the sunshine. No, it don't. It just needs light. It doesn't need to be sunlight direct on the plant. It's just light. And some plants can get away with next to nothing. I can remember visiting some caves where they had lights on so that you didn't fall head over heels. But at one point they turned the lights off because the guy said, the tour guy said, this is probably the only time you will ever experience total darkness. And that is true. Lots of people's eyes are not very good at adjusting. I've got night eyes. Sometimes it's a nuisance, but it does me good because in this country, in any house, wherever I am, in the woods, outside, anywhere, I can see. It doesn't have to be a moonlit night, I can see. Unfortunately, in bright light, I'm screwing my eyes up and I need dark glasses because it's too bright. So it's like a camera lens, you know, my eyes open up a bit more than most other people's, so I can let more light in, that's all it is. But unfortunately they don't close down as much, so bright lights, bright lights. But yeah, where did we get to? Feed. So I adjust my basic MSU formula in the growing season. Don't adjust it in the winter. There's not much growing going on. They don't need much feed, let alone start playing with it. They certainly don't need a nitrogen boost. What are they going to use? What are they going to do with that in the winter? In an 8-hour day? What are they going to do with that extra nitrogen? It's not going to get used. They're not busy. They're not actively doing stuff. So as this season fades, you'll need to think about possibly reducing the frequency that you water at and the level of feed. And as you get sort of further down the road, as we head into October, you might want to think about more waterings with no feed, i.e. more flushes, than those with feed as the plants are slowing right down. So you run with them, watch what they're up to, watch your day lengths, watch your maximum temperatures during those day lengths, if they're variable. In the house they might not be so much, but greenhouses, conservatories, outside, definitely. Why do you think my cymbidiums are outside? They're outside to take advantage of those cooler nights when they start, because that's what's going to trigger my spikes. And let's hope we get some spikes that produce some nice big blooms, big spikes, nice bright colours. Well, how are we going to do that then? I have a different type of feed for those just as they come into spike, maybe a little before. When they've matured their bulbs, they've finished growing. The only extra growing they're going to do is the spikes. Cymbidium spikes, big, thick, chunky, sturdy things with blooms on. Yeah? But I've got a bloom fertilizer for them during that time. Are they all going to get it? No. I'm going to pick on a couple and see if it makes any difference, because I need to know. Never used it before. Basically, it's got all the stuff in it except the nitrogen. The nitrogen's just been dropped down, and NPK, either the P or the K has been bumped up. So you drop one down, bump the other one up, and apparently it produces shorter spikes, stronger spikes, with better blooms, with brighter colours. The proof of the pudding will be in the orchid production. We'll see. As I say, it's a bit airy-fairy, but we'll give it a go. You know, it didn't cost an arm and a leg, and we'll try it on a couple and see if it works. And if it does, then we can repeat. If it doesn't, well, it can sit on the shelf. So be it. But at the moment, my cymbidiums haven't had any feed for 3 weeks. Why not? Because it keeps raining. which means they're soaking wet. And to feed them, well, what am I going to do? Make them even wetter? That sounds like a silly idea to me. So they're having to put up with it. They will still get photosynthesis, they're not totally devoid of food, but we're coming up to a drier, warmer spell now where today's warm, hot, no sign of rain, and I think tomorrow and the day after. So probably that day after they will get whacked up with feed because they haven't had any for a while. So it'll be a nice high dose on top of damp media, not dry media. That's another thing that people tend to forget to tell you these things. It's not a good idea to put a high level of feed into a dry pot. And then you'll come on to these rather, well, in my opinion, daft ideas. Oh, you should water your plant with clean water first and then add your fertilizer. It's a statement that is not really open to debate or dispute. Orchid roots will take on board as much hydration as they can when it's available. What happens with your coffee cup? You pour water in it. When it gets to here, can you put any more in? No. So what would be the point of watering the plant, totally hydrating it, and then adding the feed? The amount it's going to be able to take on board is minimal. So you're wasting your feed level. Now you've got all those salts left in the pot instead of them being taken on board. So I would suggest, and some would agree, that feeding frequently at quite low levels is a good way to get your orchids to take on board a nice steady flow of nutrients along with the hydration they need. But as the season starts to fade and they start to slow down, their canes, their bulbs have all reached maturity, they're all looking good, nice and strong. They're not going to use that food if you keep chucking it in there, because they run out of things to do with it. Concentrate on what you're doing and why. And that's really the art of the feed and watering with orchids, is don't just do it because it's Sunday. That might not be the best of ideas. And if that's the only day you can do it, then think about how much, whether it's got feed and how strong, and can you do something with the media to make it work better for your once a week watering. So, oh, flutterby. Fluttered by, that's what they do. I think it was a red admiral. I'm still looking out for the ones that are missing. I've had no small tortoise shells and no painted ladies this year. That's part of the garden set. You've got red admiral, small tortoise shell, painted lady, comma and peacock. Well, I've had the red admiral, the comma and the peacock, but I haven't had the other two. Not a sign of them. And I have just seen that the last gardening video I did, Hannah and I did some work, I had a walk around the garden. We noticed that the clematis, or clematis, whichever way you want to say it, that's magically appeared in the camellia? Yes, sorry, I get names muddled up. Has a bud, and I've just noticed through that window it's open. So I will be getting the camera and going outside and filming that and posting that on the other channel so that we can see what colour it is. I can't, it's sideways on at the moment, so I know it's open, but I can't see into the blue. But we'll go and have a look at that in a minute as well. I've done a couple of bonsai videos recently on the other channel. Those that are interested in that sort of thing. I know not everybody is. Not everybody's interested in the garden. You know, some people are only here for the orchids. That's fair enough. I don't mind. The other channel is there to tick along in the background and not to take over like some people thought it would. But my collaboration bonsai video was actually shown on Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and it was a premiere. Now that I've seen a premiere in action, I'm going to do some. Because basically they're like a live broadcast. The only difference is you're not there. Just your video is preloaded onto YouTube so that people can see it, and it's marked as a premiere, with a note to say when it's going to go live, and a thing that says notify me, which means an amount of minutes before it's due to actually start playing, it will notify people to remind them that it's coming up. Now, I'm going to have a go at this, because having joined in with one, you've got the, like a live broadcast, you've got the live chat coming down the side, or going up the side actually, because they come in at the bottom, where you can have a chat to other people while it's going on. The idea is that the person whose video it is there as well, so they can add comments and respond to snidey remarks and jokes and questions, things like that. So it's like a live broadcast, but not strictly speaking a live broadcast. So my element of that collaboration was posted on Friday on, the channel is called Not Another Bonsai Channel. It's Gavin's channel, and he coordinated a lot of videos from a lot of bonsai people. It's a big video. The element that I provided I will post as a separate video on my channel when I get round to it. The idea was, for those of the people who can't read or don't bother reading properly, the title was, what is a bonsai? And lots of people made their video on what is bonsai. That's a different question and needs a totally different answer. You say what is a bonsai, you're talking about trees. What is bonsai is a concept, it's an art form. There's all sorts of other things that you can bring into that topic. You can get real deep and meaningful if you want to. And one guy did, he sat cross-legged and went deep and meaningful, but he hadn't listened to the question properly. Still a good element to the collaboration. So that's done now, forget that. I think it was a major success, and well done Gavin for that, appreciated. That's the guy who put all the effort and the work in, contacting everybody and collecting the videos together and editing them all together and everything, so good on you, nice one. Yes, so there are still quite a few butterflies that have not appeared this year. And everywhere you go on the butterfly Facebook groups and everything that I'm a member of for this country, everybody's saying the same. My buddleia's out in my garden and there's not one butterfly on it. What's gone wrong? Well, what's gone wrong is what we tried to call spring and it wasn't. We had a soggy wet winter with some very cold bits, and then we had a wet cold spring. So our season's late this year. Some butterflies will have suffered really badly. Those that only have a spring brood were probably unable to breed because it just kept raining. They can't fly, can they? So they can't meet up with partners. And those that are in the caterpillar stage at that time of year probably got washed down onto the ground and drowned. So those spring butterflies will have had a bad time of it. And this time of year is the second brood of a lot of those butterflies. They come out of winter hibernation or early migration, they breed, and the results hatch out now in July, and they're just not there. Maybe because the season started really late, they are just late. So we shall see. But yeah, it's worrying when you get things like that, and that's on top of several other bad weather influences on our insect population. That would have messed the bees up as well. They can't fly in the rain. Although you do see some bumblebees having a go now and again, till they get hit with a big sploop and then they go and find a leaf to get under. But yeah, it's not been a good year for insects at all. You can tell that if you go for a drive. Go for a drive as it starts to get dark. Well, in the old days, your windscreen would be covered in splats. You go for a drive now, there's nothing. The insects just aren't there. Bad time for all of them. Anyway, that'll do for today. I don't know how long this video will be, but probably too long in some people's minds, and in others not long enough, and in others just right. Sounds like Goldilocks, doesn't it? Anyway, so there's some things to come up. As I said, this week will probably be repots, and maybe a few new blooms opening, but not much. There's still got this red Oncidium intergeneric here, still hasn't opened. The infundibulum will be opening during this week. There's not much else in bud. Oh, my Paphiopedilum blackjack has a bud. So one of those many new growths that it's got is just showing the sheath shape that you get in the centre. If you don't know any better, it looks like another leaf, but they are different, you can tell. So there we go. That'll do for today. Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for supporting the channel. And it is at this time, if you haven't done it already, that you do the thumbs up. Done it yet? Costs nothing and there's no effort. Even if you're on a phone, it's just there. So the old thumbs up is appreciated. Well, unless you don't like the video, in which case, what are you still doing here? Why are you here nearly an hour later from the start if you don't like the video? So thumbs up please, and if you're not subscribed, think about doing so if you're that way inclined. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for being here. And something I always forget to say is I hope you're all well. I hope you're all keeping good, yeah? And just on that last subject, I'm not going to do a health thing today. My weight loss, the miserable failure this week, I haven't lost any, stayed the same. And I think that's directly related to last weekend. Hannah was down on Friday. We had a huge tuna bake with lots of cheese and pasta. Well, that's not ideal for a diet, is it? And then Saturday morning, huge big cooked breakfast and cake at Burnham's, and then another meal when we got home. Sunday we had another cooked breakfast because Hannah was still down here, and then we had a big Sunday lunch thing, which was later in the afternoon, sort of 4 o'clock. So we got through rather a lot of food and some wine last weekend, and I think the consequences of that were noticed on the scales this morning when I got on, and I actually stamped on the scales a couple of times, come on, move, and it didn't. So we will put some more effort in this week because I want to try and keep that going, it's important to me. Yeah. I suppose I could adjust the scales to below 0 so that when they go boing, they're lower than they were last time. There's no point in cheating, is there? Anyway, see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.